have, say, 3 points to make as a contribution to this discussion. And it was a pleasure to hear what Gabi, Timmy, and Khwezi had to say. The first point that comes to my mind has to do with an event some of us have just experienced in this place, in this country. A little more than 4 years ago, the bid to organize the World Soccer World Cup was given to South Africa. South Africa spent the last 4 years fighting against the worst stereotypes that have been accumulated through the centuries on what Africa is, what things African are, and what comes when one gets in touch with that toxic sign Africa has been depicted to be. South Africa spent, I would say, 20% of its energy trying to contradict those stereotypes, and 80% of the energies getting ready for the event. The event happened, the country made a very big statement, and it seems to me that when the time comes to write the history of this event, that statement will prevail over the negative representations that have been peddled, have been disseminated before the event. What is it that I'm trying to say? I'm trying to say that it might be a waste of time and a waste of energy for us to keep running after what has been said or is being said about us, to the point of forgetting what it is that we have to say about ourselves. And it seems to me that this applies to artistic and cultural production, or the critique of arts and culture in these times of ours. That we might run the risk of never being able to say anything of ours, because our physical, psychic, intellectual energies are caught in responding in a mimetic way to some discourse, some possessed discourse by another, who ends up getting us possessed by his or her own demons. So that's the first point I would like to make, insofar as it seems to me the critique of photography, and one could say the critique of literature, music, or other fields of human expressivity are concerned. The second point I would like to make has to do with, Ayana, the first question you started with. What stories are we telling and why? And here, it strikes me, it has always been an object of amazement for me to see to it that our stories are so numerous. They are so multiple. They are so complex, just the way you yourself were arguing a moment ago. And some of them are, of course, they cover the whole range of what to be human is all about. From anger to deceit, from love to hate, that we are, because that's what to be human is all about, we are capable of an amazing range of affect and actions and emotions, and therefore of stories. But that, when it comes to represent those stories in art forms, And this is not simply the fact of other people talking about black people. It's also black people talking about themselves. And when it comes to that, there is a gap between this richness, this complexity, and the cliches we have come to speak in. So I'm interested in why is it that we are under the rule of cliches? Why is it that we are not able to speak except in cliches? What is the problem with language here? Why this crisis of language, which affects, I say it again, photography, music, although Thembi is more optimistic about music, and other art forms. Why this crisis? Why are we stuck from the point of view of language to the point where we are unable to manifest the totality of our being human? To the point where we can only speak like, I'm sorry if anyone happens to be in that position, people who are stammering. In a quasi-epileptic manner. And I really put it here as far as I'm concerned, a very serious question. Because we cannot, even if we wanted to, respond to the machine of degradation of Africa in the language of stammering, of stuttering. If we want to respond, then we should stop stuttering. So, where is it that this power of cliches, where does it come from? And how to liberate language? I mean, we, of course, talk about liberation, political liberation, economic liberation. When the liberation of language? And what are those forces that are repressing language? Some of them, of course, censorship. And indeed, we have now being debated in Parliament a law that is a silly law, if you allow me to speak in those terms. We have all in mind the Minister of Culture having funded an exhibition, going there and running away because she doesn't want to see naked images. So I would say, let's liberate language, let's achieve some epiphany of language, let's get into blasphemy, if that is the way in which we can liberate language. Because if we do not do that, let's forget about all the rest. Forget about blackness, forget about what the West has done to us, is doing to us. We won't be able to respond to any of that. The third point, so what I'm saying is that, in fact, we need an insurrection. I'm advocating for an insurrection in the field of language as a precondition to make sense of the totality of the human we pretend that we are. And that's much more difficult than, apportioning blame here and there. The third point has to do with what seems to be our obsession with difference. I have to say that difference is not the same thing as originality. Difference is not the same thing as singularity. I have to say that most of the times the discourse on difference goes hand in hand with the discourse on disempowerment. Most of the time people who put a premium in asserting how different they are the same people who tend to define themselves as victims. I put those questions on the table here because, after all, we are in power in South Africa.
Are we?
Yes, we are in the power in South Africa. Apartheid, as we knew it, is finished. It won't come back. And we have a problem adjusting to this new condition of ours. Embracing freedom and living it. I know that these are very polemical statements, but since we are here for that, I mean, that's what you told us, I do. So after all, why is it that we are frightened to take seriously the fact that we black people live in the only nation on earth where black people rule over a sizable minority of white people? You don't find it in America. You cannot find it in Europe. You don't find it in Brazil. We are the only place on earth where this is the case. Why is it that we do not turn this into something that opens up to a politics of self-assertion, self-confidence, and possibility? I want us to reflect on those issues.